Hello and welcome to Film and Game Composers. I am Mina Shamali, and today I'm speaking to Mr. Nima Fakhrara. He is an LA-based composer who scored films like The Signal, The Pyramid, and Wes Craven's final film, The Girl in the Photographs. He came up working and assisting on projects like Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes and games like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and his most recent project is the soundtrack to the video game 1979 Revolution Black Friday, which is set during the Islamic Revolution in Iran, and which challenges modern gaming with its innovation and its confronting material. Nima is also known for building his own custom instruments that uniquely feature in his work. So hello, Mr. Fakhrara. How are you?
How are you, man? I'm good, man. I'm good.
And
Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure, man. It's our pleasure. Now, let me start with this. Your Instagram name, and I think your Twitter handle as well, is Ostad Nima.
Yes, it is.
Have you been asked about this before?
I have not. Unless you're a Middle Eastern, you won't know what Ostad means. Basically.
Exactly, and I find it interesting because what does Ostad mean in other languages?
Basically, it means maestro.
There you go.
It's funny. So in my family, basically within the cousins, anyone that's usually my age, I started getting the nickname Ostad when I was very, very little. So that has kind of just been I guess been going through the generations, and I've just been kept that nickname going. On Instagram, Nima wasn't available by itself, so I was like, all right, let's just do Ostad Nima. And it's not. I mean, that's what I get. It's more of a joke than anything else, but it's cool. Why not?
See, that's the thing is that because I
feel free to call me Maestro if you want.
I'll call you Maestro. No, it's just funny. It's just I was wondering because like not everyone will get that, and then someone might get it, and then it'd be like, wait a second. Who does he think he is?
Exactly. No, it's been a running joke throughout my friends and family. I mean, and social media, it's like basically whoever follows you, they all of a sudden become your best friend. So why not? Yeah. Let's kind of have them be my best friend for a while.
Why not?
Why not?
And so obviously, this is a word in Arabic and possibly Farsi as well. And
yeah,
that's where you hail from. You hail from Iran originally.
Yeah, I was born in Iran and then grew up in Washington D.C. before moving to L.A.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty much most of my growing up and most of my teenage years were spent in Maryland and Los Angeles.
Oh, wonderful.
I mean, yeah. So I didn't. I mean, yes, I do consider my childhood to be kind of growing up in Iran, and most of my musical background comes from that time.
Oh, fair enough. That's and what? So, what did you grow up? Because you grew up playing the Santur.
Yes.
And what else, was that your main instrument? Did you play anything else, or?
No, I mean, I that's basically my parents kind of threw the Santur on top of me, and I started playing that. And then once I moved to DC, I picked up the other instruments that I play, such as the sitar, tar. Pretty much, I play. I like to say, whoever asks me, I like to say I could make noise out of anything.
Yeah.
But yes, I could pick up a tune. I could pick up any kind of instruments and then play a tune off of it. And if I need to actually record it myself, I could technically do it. But as long as I know how to kind of go around the instrument, I'm pretty happy about that.
Uniquely, actually, I find that I was listening to your music and on your website, and I feel like, at least when it comes to featured instruments, you're always going for live. And like, I'm not hearing a lot of sampled stuff. There might be sampled stuff in there that's either extremely well programmed, or it's just like, doing some other roles that don't necessarily require you wouldn't be able to tell. Is that something you strive for in your scores?
Well, I've kind of designed my entire music production around this studio that we're in right now. I have a scoring stage here. I have a whole facility of kind of composers and musicians that are actually housed in the studio. And
is this Zoo Creatives?
Yes, this is Zoo Creatives. Yeah,
okay.
And what is the beauty of it is that pretty much most of the musicians that I work with, they're housed at the studio now.
Oh, wow.
And,
fantastic.
And I could literally go right down the door, and I could just be like, You guys want to record something? So it helps out a lot in that sort. And also my mixer is here, and I record a lot out of pretty much 3 doors down into the scoring stage. So that helps. That helps with the idea of getting anything live. And I've always been a fan of just being able to play anything tactically, even if it's programmed. Yes, it's programmed very well. I guess my background and just like the way that I have to kind of do it, I do it okay, and then I do replace a lot of it with live musicians, as I pretty much have most of the musicians that I work with at the studio.
Yeah, and it's actually in this day and age, and where budgets are getting tighter, and not a lot of
Sure.
music is, or there is a lot of music getting done live. It's just maybe the budget for it isn't always there, and it's really refreshing to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's you have to kind of become creative. Sorry, I'm just putting the charger on. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It's you have to become creative, especially in this day and age. I've seen, I mean, I've even through the short time that I've been around this massive empire of film and television entertainment industry, it has changed a lot, and you have to be adaptable, and that's what I've been able to do,
Yeah.
fortunately.
And did you, because you also came up working assisting composers, and you spent 3 years or thereabouts at Remote Control. So,
Yeah, I spent a good a while over there. I mean, most of my training was done by myself. I mean, yes, I spent a lot of time assisting a lot of composers. Most of the things that I would like to say that I learned was actually working for Christoph Beck.
yeah,
I worked
yeah.
for him. I worked for him in a very short period of time. And he was moving his studio, but knowing his talent and knowing what he's able to do is it's what I learned from him was the most important thing. Yes, I did spend a little bit time in remote control, but mostly it was just kind of just trying to figure out where I want to land my own kind of vision and my own kind of voice into the world of this mayhem that we have.
And did this vision includes having your own facility with in-house musicians? And how long did that take you?
What? Yeah, well, I've kind of, I mean, being a musician, being a Iranian musician, I grew up with the idea of always having collaboratives, and I kind of consider myself a quote unquote filmmaker or storyteller, if you
Yeah.
will. And in every single aspect of filmmaking or storytelling, you have collaborative efforts all the time. You have writers' rooms in television shows. You have directors that work together. You have directors, writers working together, multiple producers. In the world of music, it's always been a taboo to not to have collaborators that actually you could literally walk into another room and be like, "How does my music sound? Is it shit or is it okay?" And
Yeah.
that's what it was kind of. I mean, I had a studio out of my garage where I kind of just built a lot of stuff out of it. Then I moved into another studio across the street from Sony Pictures. And then I needed a bigger space, and then we kind of just everyone just moved from one location to the next
Wow.
together. So, I mean, there's my the people that are here. I've known them from school times, from basically college times. Some of them are I've known probably for about 7-8 years now. So
Wow.
we've been working together for a while, and we've kind of all just been able to just work together in a very sane manner, if you will.
But was it because whereabouts is the studio based, or the facility
Uh,
based?
yeah, the studio, the facility, if whatever you want to call it. We're in Marina Del Rey, actually. I used to be in Culver City. Right now, we're very close to the beach,
Oh,
so
nice.
we could kind of we go on the roof sometimes and just look at the water, and then we just come back down again
That's
into
fantastic. Also,
reality.
having
Yeah.
a good view is actually very important. Like for me, I love windows, and I love
Yes.
natural light, and I'm like, whereas you see like some other studios that'll like you, for example, you got Hans Zimmer's big red room,
Sure.
and
Sure. Sure.
you
Sure.
got other people's like, but windows and views and natural, and I don't know. I'm with you
Yeah, I
on
mean, and
that.
then basically right now we're sitting in my studio and in my room, and I mean, I have a skylight. I have like windows all over the
A
place.
man after my own heart.
Yeah, Uh, so it's like pretty much every room upstairs. We have skylights in every room, and it's just like kind of we have natural light. And then it's funny because Adam Schmidt, who's worked on a mixer on 1979 and a
Yeah.
lot of my stuff, hates sunlight. So it's like he's we're trying to figure out a way to cover the skylight for him so he could just be in a better mood sometimes. So it's
Oh
funny.
man, that's fantastic. But actually, I'll ask you one more thing. You were studying medicine at one point. Like that came
Yes.
up somewhere, and it's no because did you like leave it halfway through, kind of thing, or?
I'm an Iranian. I was forced into medicine. It was either medicine, lawyer, or a engineer. It
I
was
feel you.
my parents wanted one of those. I mean, it's still to this day. My mom comes into the studio sometimes and she's like, "Are you sure about this?" I'm like, "Yeah, mom, I'm sure."
You know,
I don't know how else I need to prove it to you.
I empathize 100%. I used to study pharmacy.
Very nice. Very nice.
There's a
Very nice.
reason I'm not studying it
I
anymore.
yeah, I was pretty much I was in my third semester of medicine before I switched over. I mean, I knew I wanted to be an OB-GYN. I had my mentors ready to
Oh
go.
wow.
Everything was ready to go before it was like literally a one night turn. I went to a party and I was just like, nope, I want to do music. This is what I want to do.
It was lot quicker for you than it was for me. It took me a lot longer to get out of that. It was. But I'm not here to replay my issues. Sorry, that was dramatic. I was just like, oh my god, I need therapy. That's better. Anyway, 1979 Revolution. Is the Black Friday in the title or not? Because I'm not sure, because I read in the title.
I don't know. I think it's we've been calling it 1979 for a while. It's 1979 Revolution, Black Friday, whatever you want to call it, as long as it's 1979.
Now the one of the first, well, it just wasn't the first thing that struck me, but the thing I came to discover. So Navid Konsari,
Hmm.
the director and the creator, this is a man who directed Max Payne and Max Payne 2, two of my favorite games, and he directed
Yep.
GTA San Andreas and GTA Liberty City Stories. So this dude has some clout, if that's the word.
Yep. Yeah, he has some balls.
Like, I think it's fantastic. Like, was his involvement or his, I suppose this is his fruit, this is his brainchild. Was it because of him or because of the idea, or is it because of both that you kind of got involved?
Well, it was ultimately because of both. I mean, the entire, if you will, the birth of me kind of working with him was about 3-4 years ago. I heard about the video game. He started development on it. He was doing interviews on like CNN and all that kind of stuff. And he was just talking about it. And I heard about it and I kind of reached out to him. This is back in the day when I've never worked on a video game or anything like that. And I was like, this is kind of genius. I want to be able to work with him. I work in Middle Eastern music. I've done Persian classical music, and I've done scores. So why not kind of combine the both and see what I could do with them? So I reached out to him, and then we talked briefly until the game kind of started becoming a little bit more serious and actually getting it developed. And then one thing led to another. He came to LA. I went to New York, and then we started collaborating on it. But it was it was both actually, kind of for him to be involved, and also the idea of GTA, Max
Yeah.
Payne, and a very secretive video game that he's working on now. So
Yeah, no, that's it's fantastic, and it's like, because it's very. I haven't actually played. I played a little bit of San Andreas, and I haven't played Liberty Stories, but I played like some of the other GTA's. So obviously
mhm.
there's the seeds in it, because he also did some writing beforehand as well, didn't he?
Oh yeah, yeah.
But then Max Payne, Max Payne, and Max Payne 2, damn, two of my favorite games. It's just like,
Mhm.
so that's exciting. Is there any of that spirit in the game? Of like, I know it's a
There's
very
lot
different
of
setting, but
yeah. There's a little bit of not from Max Payne, more or less. There are some. I mean, there's a lot of GTA, if you will. There's that kind of you go around, find your own adventure idea kind of thing in it. Um, but what I like to call this game is more of a kind of a history lesson in a video game world.
edutainment maybe.
Exactly. I mean, and it's also kind of it also has that world of that telltale idea of kind of that whole Walking Dead idea kind of thing as well
They
in
also did
it
Game
a
of
little
Thrones, I
bit.
think.
Do they? I don't know. I don't. I've
There's
been
a Game of
avoiding Game of Thrones in many different ways,
Oh, okay.
but
No, I mean
no.
they did a Game of Thrones game like for
Oh, they have. Oh, interesting.
either them or it was a Telltale style. I can't remember what it was, but I just remember seeing it around. And apparently, it's pretty good. It
Oh,
because
very.
it has the same idea of Telltale, at least the
Yeah, I mean,
concept.
I heard about Telltale, and it's like one of the rules that I have is whenever I'm on a project, I don't look at anything else.
Yeah,
He told me about Telltale. I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. All right, I get the concept. I mean, I've been a gamer my whole entire life, so
yeah,
I kind of get what it would be technically. But I mean, I've played decision making games. Like you have like your Splinter Cell. You got to be kind of just making decisions and things change. There's like the Uncharted stuff, all that kind of stuff. You could kind of just do different things, but I've never played like Walking Dead or anything like that, which I kind
okay.
of get what it is. Yeah.
And this is a so it's obviously very confronting material. It's very well. It was controversial enough to be banned in Iran. It
But
and
what is not banned in Iran? If we
well,
want to get philosophical.
see, I don't know. Like, it,
Yeah, I mean, the thing I like to say, I mean, we're not taking any sides in the political aspect of the game. I mean, yes, we are telling a story of the revolution. With us saying revolution, we're already taking sides,
yeah,
and also with the idea of that we're telling a revolution in a sense of kind of a journalist perspective, and then we're looking at different military perspectives as well. That's another side that we're taking as well. However,
mm,
with this story, we're telling a very much of a truth standpoint where I mean, Naveed has done enough research to tell exactly what was done at the time, to tell exactly what was happening at the time. So if you
yeah,
want to take it as a political standpoint, feel free to take it as a political standpoint. Our goal for this game was to actually tell a story, not that it hasn't been told before, but in a very new avenue,
yeah,
and also for it to be more or less just kind of as authentic as possible. If you walk around in the video game and you see different speeches being done, actually, those are actually authentic speeches that he dug up from many different
wow,
poets, or even graffitis. If you look at the graffitis, those were actual graffitis that were done at the time. Um, so the authenticity is absolutely there. And I like to call history always his story.
yeah,
So it could be our telling of this his story or their perspective of it, and you have the choice in the video game to take many different sides. Um, with that said, yes, Iran could ban anything that they want. I rather the people of Iran be able to listen to this and watch and actually play this game, and actually for them to judge it themselves. But it's where we are at.
Mm. No,
That's what it
so,
is.
I get you. And see, for me as an Egyptian-born man, like for example, if I saw the Egyptian Revolution in being
Mhm.
told, I've seen like a number of the different views,
Sure.
and the people who called a failed revolution, the people who called it a successful
Hmm.
revolution, and the
Sure.
people who hated one elected president over the other, and like,
Yep.
and it's like, how do you even get? It's a landmine.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like whatever you're walking on eggshells and you're walking on glass at any point. You're talking about any sort of revolutionary standpoint. My parents are going to hate me for this, for talking about this at all.
Oh my
Uh,
god! So well, I don't
no,
want to.
but
I can edit
no,
this
no, no,
out.
no.
It's
You're
fine.
fine. No, 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 no. You're totally fine. That's the funny thing is I have a long-standing breakfast pretty much with my parents every Saturday, and the day that I told them that I got basically kind of the game got banned in Iran, and my mom goes, why did you even work on it? I'm like, well, I'm proud of it. It's something that I had to be told, and I've told my agents this out all the time. I'm like, I want to tell a story, and I want to be able to tell an authentic story. If I had the chance to do Argo, I would have told it differently. Or if I had
Wow.
the chance to tell many different stories that we've been kind of seeing lately, I would tell it in a very authentic way. And I'm proud of being an Iranian, and I'm more than happy to be able to tell a story in an Iranian way. And I would be pissed off if somebody else that is not Iranian and somebody else that is not more or less in love with this idea to tell this story. I would rather do it myself.
Yeah, now fair. That's fair point. And you tell the story musically in a very interesting way. I've like
Thanks.
from hearing a lot of the interviews as well. It's about the process where you talked about
Sure.
you had a particularly Persian feel, but not in the way that you might expect, in the sense that you replaced, for example, the Western analogs with Persian
Mhm.
instruments, so like a tar instead of a guitar, or
Yep.
a dulcimer, sorry, no, santur instead of a piano, kind of
Yep.
thing. And
Yep.
like,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
did you also replace like an orchestra with like a Middle Eastern orchestra playing 3 octaves?
Well, yeah. Well, the thing about it is that first, when we started talking about the video game with Naveed and the musical standpoint, the musical standpoint of the game was so different in many different and so different on what we actually started with to where we are at now. We wanted to do a very much of a minimalistic approach, very, if you will, very Trent Reznor, Philip Glass kind of idea when we started the project.
Yeah,
But then our view and standpoint changed a little bit once the engine started developing, and once we kind of saw how the story was going to be told. Um,
they become
and
a bit more
then
complex.
it became a little bit more complex because we figured out that the music actually had something to say, and it had to tell a story in that sense of the word. And usually, yeah, you could do it with a minimalistic approach, but it became a little bit more orchestral, the way that more orchestral than we ever wanted. So we kind of dialed it back with analog synths and like the 70s sounds and 60s and 70s 80s sound, Middle Eastern instruments. I mean, there is an orchestra in there, in the score, but it's more or less kind of just like very small. I mean, yeah, we're dealing with a Western telling of that story, so I had to kind of be able to appeal to the mass audience. I couldn't just all of a sudden pull in my Persian classical music and just play Persian classical music all the way through.
And it's interesting because if you like that, this applies to any cultural thing or any historical
Mhm.
thing. Like a show set in the Renaissance isn't just going to feature Renaissance music as the soundtrack, or
Sure.
uh, like if you look at Gladiator, for example. It's just like
Hmm.
it wasn't just, hey, let's just get in as much Middle Eastern music as possible. It's like, well,
Sure.
the Western telling, exactly what you're saying. It's like it's a Western it's a modern telling of an old tale. It's a weird,
Sure.
it's a
Sure.
uh,
No, I mean, I like to kind of emphasize this though. I mean, with as you've said, like Gladiator, there's what I love about Hans and what he does sometimes. I mean, there's a Spanish guitar in there because it's called Spaniard.
yeah,
There's a duduk in there, which I still have a little bit of a problem with it,
because it's
but
Armenian.
I don't know why, but it works. I'll give him that. But I've seen perspectives and I've seen movies that they all of a sudden were in Egypt, and they pull in a duduk, and I'm just like, there we go. For 1979, I wanted to stay true to the Iranian culture, and
Yeah.
what I wanted to do was that put in anything that is Iranian instrument. I didn't use any duduks. I didn't use any ouds. I didn't use anything else. I mean, I basically just kind of pulled in anything that is not Middle Eastern. Let me take
No,
that
no,
back.
no. I got you. Yeah.
Anything that is Iranian instrument, and actually use it. I mean, I think that's what should be done. I think the composers, not that they're lazy, but I would rather see them kind of pull in a little bit more of a research and actually do that when we're dealing with um, movies that are kind of based in somewhere else. Just do some research, and actually you'll be able to use those instruments. It's not that hard.
Yeah, but I think because there can be a bit of a misconception. Uh,
Sure.
for example, there's one of the best sample libraries I've ever found for Middle Eastern Oriental kind of stuff. Oriental.
Mhm.
That I hate that word. I shouldn't say that word. Just because it's exoticization, all that kind of crap. Anyway,
Sure, sure, sure.
um, it's like East West Silk.
Sure.
Beautiful sample library. Well,
Hmm.
the Persian. What's under Persian? Duduk.
Of course, yeah.
So
No,
like,
I mean, if you want to, if you want to consider it, if you want to consider it, yes, they are technically Persian. There was a Persian Empire at one point, but the
oh,
Persian
okay.
Empire could be considered many different things.
The piano's Persian. It's
But
okay.
I mean, technically, if you want to consider that, basically anything that was done in Asia was basically a Persian Empire, if you want to consider that. But if we're going to do that, then you could kind of just say anything that's American. It's anything from a charango all the way to
Yeah.
a marimba is an American thing. But I mean, you see it. I mean, I don't want to be I don't want to start talking shit about other composers, but
No,
you
no, no.
see it in many times that they take the easy approach, and it could be because of the filmmaker or the storyteller or
Absolutely.
whoever it is.
Absolutely.
And it's just like basically, but as a musician and for me as a Iranian musician, for me it's very important. I mean, I've done projects that I had to tell a story in a different culture. And it's more or less just kind of educating the filmmaker or whatever it is, just kind of, and if you do it correctly, listen, you could use a duduk or you could use a ney, if you will.
Yeah.
A ney is going to give you the same exact result if you do it correctly. You don't have to do it with a very much of a quote unquote Middle Eastern way of playing the ney. If you want to
Yeah.
tell a story in Saudi Arabia, you don't pull a duduk. It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But and you could do it very easily. You could do
And
it very easily.
if you're not familiar enough with the culture, that like it's hard to make sense of that.
Sure. I mean, and then listen, it's like you could technically do the research, and if you can't do the research, you shouldn't even be taking that job. I mean, as a writer, you could see a lot of writers that go around and start doing research for 2-3 years before they write anything. It doesn't why not a composer, why not a musician they have to do that research? It's like it doesn't make sense for me to pull up my bongos and congas and just start playing on 1979. It just doesn't make sense.
Maybe the reason composers might not do it as much is because a lot of composers get brought in much later in the process.
Sure.
So they don't actually
No,
have the
absolutely.
time to do it.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. But I mean, you not to give them excuses, but there is YouTube.
Very true, actually.
You know, it's like you type in Iranian music, or you type in Arabic music. There's a distinct difference between those two.
Absolutely.
If you type in Egyptian music and you type in Saudi music, there's a distinct
What if they
difference.
type in Iranian music and all they get is Golgosh, or what's her name, the
Well,
big pop star?
that's fine. Yeah, Gugush is actually absolutely fine, but Gugush is I mean. We're getting very deep in this.
Sorry,
but
no.
No. This is great. No, this is great. I'm gonna get in so much trouble. But
no, because she's very much tuned into the whole whole revolution as well.
Absolutely. But a sane person will know that is pop Iranian music.
Exactly,
it's just
right?
not music. That is just Iranian music. If you really wanted to, you just got to like search like Persian classical music, and then Shajarian shows up, and like all of those masters shows up. Those ostads will show up.
Those ostads. There we are. And well, I should just go on YouTube like Ustad Nima Fakhrara. That'd be amazing. You create custom instruments, but you didn't actually you customized instruments for this score, didn't you? Like it was.
Yes.
What did you do? What you do?
Basically, for this, because again, we were dealing with a little bit of a historical standpoint, and there's not that much sci-fi elements to it. It was more or less kind of just customizing or organic instruments for it to sound a little bit kind of more electronic. Like we're dealing with the late 70s, early 80s. So there's a lot of analog synths involved. One of the things I like to do, I mean, especially with this project, was that I brought in a lot of my analog synths from storage and actually utilized it.
Are they still in your studio?
They're not in the studio. No, I hate bringing them in because they're just such a pain to use them. They're all out of tune and they just never work. Sometimes they're just like they're like a little child. They get in moods. But yeah, I mean, I utilized a lot of those stuff, but also with those limitations that as we were talking about, just like with Iranian instruments. There's a very much of a limitation. It's the bass, if you will, the bass register in Iranian music doesn't exist,
Oh wow.
and we've as Iranian Persian classical musicians have done. They've actually brought the oud, as you have it behind you.
Yeah.
And they've made that into their bass, quote unquote, bass instrument. So what I did
Wow.
to try to be a little bit more authentic, I customized some tars and some sitars to actually be able to add. I added some strings so I could actually be able to play the bass tonalities as well. So that was a customized stuff. I mean, there's a lot of some of the analog synth sounds are actually done by actual instruments itself,
Oh wow.
or the as you said, the santur being able to kind of replace the piano. I had to kind of modify the santur just slightly so it's a little bit more quote unquote Western,
Yeah.
in order for it to sound a little bit more familiar than just it being a Middle Eastern dilling 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 things.
Do you tend to kind of in the score? Is it a more Western tonalities with a bit of maqams thrown in, like the quarter tones and stuff, or?
There's no quarter tones in this,
Oh, okay, yeah.
because yeah, there's no quarter tones. It's more or less. I like to call it, if Vangelis was born in Iran, left Iran, and actually wanted to make an Iranian score, that's what he would do. That's what I like to kind of call it. I mean, basically the score is a combination of analog synths meet Middle Eastern stuff that are replacing Western music and then running it through tape machine and actually recording it that way. That's what the score sounds like to me.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. And in terms of your custom instruments, because
Sure.
you've spoken about it in interviews so many times, so I don't want to make you repeat it. So,
No,
like,
that's fine.
but you got some really interesting things like the Ice Queen, which you did for Resident Evil
Hmm.
2,
Yep.
which is what exactly was it? It's something you play with dry ice. An instrument you
Yeah,
play with dry
it's
ice. That's amazing.
yeah, basically, I mean, getting a little bit back to the history of why I do custom instruments. I Once I moved to Los Angeles, I studied with a gentleman named John Schneider. He is a guy. I mean, if anybody does a search for him, he creates microtonal guitars that literally
Fantastic.
you take the fretboard of a guitar out and you just replace it with a different, and it's just different. It's not pegs on it, just they're moving around.
Wow.
So he has this thing called Microfest, and he studied under Harry Parch, the guy that kind of started creating a lot of instruments. So my fascination started with that. I mean, even before that, I started modifying stuff. I've always been a rebel in Persian classical music. So um, one thing led to another. I found the idea of being able to play something tactically a lot more pleasing than being able to just kind of make that sound on a computer.
Yeah.
So the Ice Queen, the idea behind it was, first I wanted just to do something that was resonating, and I couldn't figure out a way to do it. So I came up with an idea of having two cylinders that are on top of each other, if you will, and there is a cord that is attaching these two cylinders. So whatever is on the bottom of this that does the resonation, and on the top is just you could play it. So you could put different instruments in here, such as a guitar
Oh
or
wow.
even a santur or anything. Based on the resonation that happens, based on the hits, you resonate this as well.
Oh wow.
Um,
That's a brilliant idea.
so that's basically how the Ice Queen came about, and then the idea was that how do we make this a little bit more resonating and without it being so rumbly sound. So dried ice has this very much of very fast vibration because it's just evaporating at all times. So we started messing around with that, and then that came into play.
That is fascinating. Do you ever think of sampling these instruments?
Yes, I have samples of them all the time.
Wait,
uh,
you should also do it commercially. Like I bet
yeah.
someone like Sound Iron would love it. I guarantee because
I am very that's funny you say that. It's I'm very very kind of, if you will, I'm very secretive. I'm very precious. These things are very precious to me. I rarely have anyone record in the studio here, besides the people that are here, and because of the sound that I like to get, and
Yeah.
also kind of the custom instruments. I mean, yes, they're sampled the shit out of them, and I could play them. I don't have to go to the scoring stage and start kind of messing around with them. But it's funny because like my business manager was like, you need to get another storage system because you're running out of room as far as your custom instruments are concerned. So yes, I have sampled them, but selling them commercially maybe down the line once I'm done with them.
I don't know. Like I just see like people.
Everyone is doing it. Everyone, I mean, including Hans Zimmer percussions, everyone is doing it. But these instruments are a little. I mean, especially since I make them for specific
Yeah.
projects. Yes, maybe like 5-6 years down the line when I'm actually working on like Godzilla or something, and then I could create. Then I could bank on those.
Oh, it's fantastic, man. On a side note, you did minutes with Max Amini. You know, working with an awesome Persian comedian.
Yeah.
Just like, did he just call you because did he just call you? It's like, okay, where are my Persian brothers? Where are they?
Well, Max and I went to high school together back in
No
DC.
way.
Yeah, so Max, and it was funny because like we lost touch for a while, and one night we were shit faced back in LA, and we were just we were started talking about high school, and he turns around, and he's like, "Yeah, I went to Walter Johnson." I was like, "Dude, I went to Walter Johnson. What are you talking about?" And then we started realizing what and how we had the connection, and we're like, "Dude, we had classes together. I can't even believe that we just don't remember this."
I used to beat you up.
Yeah, basically, it's funny because like, and then we lost touch, and then he came to LA, and one of our friends kind of reintroduced us, if you will, but and then he was doing the show, and I was like, "Oh, I'll help you out if you want to do a live band. I'll be your Questlove, if you will."
Fantastic.
And that became Minutes with Axe and Meaning.
Oh man, next thing is gonna be uh, with Omi Jalili, with Mas Jabrani, with
Oh, of
like
course, yeah.
everyone on the
They're
scene.
all yeah, they're all amazing. I mean, they're all really good friends of mine. So it's funny because you never know. All of a sudden, Jimmy Fallon might need to be replaced by one of these guys. So
You know
uh,
what? That's what we need.
that's
That's
what we need.
not that
Yes, I mean,
I have nothing against Jimmy Fallon, but I'm like,
I don't either. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we need a late night show by one of these guys, and that would be hilarious.
it's
I wouldn't mind. I would not mind watching a show with Omi Jalali at all whatsoever.
oh, he actually used to have a show. He had the Omi Jalili show at some point,
Oh yeah, that's
and he
right.
had
Yeah,
sketches
that's
and
right.
stuff. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
he's
that was like,
honest.
I mean, just like an Ali G show, but like an actual live audience and just kind of something like that. That would be an awesome thing. So
um, I want to ask you this only because I feel I would relate to it.
sure.
Do you kind of, because people obviously look at you and they look at your name and they look at your background and look at you, might look at your work and be like, you're the Persian dude. You, like,
Hmm.
but you grew up a substantial portion of your life in the States, so you're equally American. And
Sure.
does that ever bother you? Does that ever kind of like, you ever feel like, someone asks you where you're from? Oh, like, I'm originally from Iran. Oh, so you're this. So they projected this kind of,
Sure.
you are
Well,
this.
it's. I'll tell you a very funny story. I one of my first projects, one of my first bigger projects, was the Courier. With Hani Abu Assad, and as Hani Abu Assad is basically a Golden Globe winner of Paradise Lost, Paradise Now, I think it was called. And so I basically, my agent called me about the project, and I went and I was going to go to the interview. So the first thing that I did, it was one of my first big gigs, and I knew what I was getting myself into. So one of the first things that I was like, all right, let me go into this. I know Hani great. I'm meeting other producers as well. So I was like, all right, let me just shave my beard completely. I'm honest to God, I shaved my beard, and I walked into this meeting, and I sat down. Hani came in, and another gentleman came in, and he introduced himself as Mike. He sat down, and we started talking, and then one thing led to another. They were like, "Oh, where are you from?" I was like, "Oh, I'm from Iran originally," and then we went around the room, and it basically became. I was Iranian. The producer was Egyptian, Mike Gabrawi, and Hani Abu Assad. So I was like, "There's no point of me shaving my beard in this situation." Um, basically, from then on, what I've realized is that yes, I am Iranian. I'm an Iranian-born composer. However, I grew up in the U.S. and I take pride of who I am. I don't have any problems with it. I mean, there's Iranian instruments hanging right in front of me, and then right next to them there's guitars, literally six
Yeah.
guitars and then six tars next to it. But yes, you always get into this niche, but I guess I've been fortunate enough to be able to say that because of my last name, it's not so Middle Eastern. It's a little bit different, that I don't have to deal with that. But once you kind of see me with a full beard, people ask questions.
Well,
But I'm okay with it. I've hadn't had any problems with it.
yeah.
And I even if I do have problems, it's not a big deal.
Well, I must say, apart from your beard, you also have some extremely luscious hair that
Thanks.
I would kill for. I
Thanks, man. Thanks.
That's. Do you get complimented on your hair a lot?
I do. I do.
Like girls will come up to you, it's like, "Oh my god, I want your hair."
It's more the beard than anything else.
It is a very nicely shaped beard, I must say.
Thanks, man.
So,
Thanks.
you got it in all. You got the trims in all the right places. And I've seen pictures of your studio. Your studio looks amazing, like from
Thank
your
you so much.
website.
Thanks, man.
Suppose what's your favorite thing in the studio, or your most important thing in your studio?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's more of a hang than a studio than anything else. That's what I like. To kind
Yeah.
of it's more. I don't want to call it a man cave, but it's kind of just. I mean, there's actually two girls working here as well, but it's more or less just kind of a hang than just a working space.
That's awesome.
It's just that's what I like about it.
And I suppose last but not least, I always ask about this work-life balance. As
Sure.
a full-time working composer, it must be difficult.
Mhm.
How do you manage it?
I try to keep a schedule. Working in the construction world of remote control, I hated that life. So I try to usually keep a schedule, and besides music, as you probably already know, I do multiple other things. I mean, I've started producing films. I'm in the app world. I'm
Fantastic.
helping out, and I'm an investor in a fashion company as well. So it's I wear many different hats, but I try to keep a schedule. I mean, basically, I come into the studio around 9, 10 o'clock, and then I leave at 7 o'clock. That's pretty much every day, and I try to kind of keep a routine. I would go a little insane if I don't do that. Even though I have an office in New York now, so I kind of split time with that. So it's a busy life, but I like keeping
But it's not
myself
boring,
busy.
I'm guessing.
It sometimes does get boring because it's the same thing over and over again. But
No, but I mean,
that's why I build instruments, man. That then I could smash shit around if I could just kind of basically just go around and smash guitars and stuff. That's what I could do.
Oh man, that's fantastic. Well, Nima, thank you very much. It's
Of
been an
course.
absolute pleasure talking to you. And
Thanks so much for having me, dude.
it's my pleasure, man. It's my pleasure. The game is available on Steam.
It is available on Steam. We are releasing an iOS. Hopefully, I don't know if the date has been set yet, but yes,
Okay.
it's coming shortly.
And the soundtrack, is it coming out?
Soundtrack is available on iTunes right now. You could
Fantastic.
probably listen to it on Spotify as well. Pretty much it's everywhere, I think.
And it's bound to be a good listen.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm very proud of it. It's very close to my heart. So it's something that, for better or worse, it's something to listen to.
That's fantastic. Well, it'll be a pleasure to listen to it and to see it. And we look forward to talking to you again and seeing your next project.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
No worries. I'll catch you later, man.
Thanks. Have a good day, bud.
You too.